Here I am showing two stun combos from Alice. Both started with nearly the same score, have the same builds, and press their buttons in nearly the same way. But yet one of them did 11,000 damage during the stun while the other only did 8,000. What's happening here? Despite Alice having a simple kit, this one tip will make you do a lot more damage without having to change anything in your setup. In this video I'll show you what that is, as well as some other tips to make sure your Alice's swordplay is perfectly symmetrical. Well, it all comes down to Alice's bread and butter, which is her enhanced basic attack. When her bar is full, she can hold down her basic attack to do her big attack, triggering her polarized assault. To properly explain what that is and how to maximize it, I'll have to explain the basics of anomalies. First, when the circle fills, it activates an anomaly. Hopefully you already knew this, but what you might not know is that anomaly snapshot buffs while you are applying it. So this means that you want to have your buffs applied before applying anomaly to maximize the damage. However, effects from enemies only apply when the anomaly activates. So apply Nicole's Death Shred before activating an assault, stun multiplier effects only take place once assault lands, and try to avoid assaults when the enemy has increased defense from miasma shields. Alice's polarized assault takes into account all the snapshotted buffs of the current anomaly buildup and acts like the anomaly buildup was finished under those exact same conditions. Next, if two characters apply the same attribute anomaly, the anomaly damage is split between them. The easiest way to demonstrate this is with my max level Alice and an unbuilt level 10 Piper. I just showed what their assaults are individually, and now this is what it looks like when they both contribute to the assault. As you can see, it's not quite either their assault numbers, so they both contributed to the anomaly. Going back to the polarized assault, that means its damage can also be diluted by other agents. However, the attack itself also does anomaly buildup that will be taken into account. Another important property of anomaly is that you cannot overflow anomalies. So if an anomaly is about to be activated, don't use an ability with big anomaly application or else you waste anomaly buildup. That extra anomaly buildup will go into the void, and wasting too much anomaly buildup like this really adds up over the course of a fight. The last property of anomaly that I'll go over is that only on-field agents can activate anomalies, with 3 exceptions, those being Vivian, Bernice, and Astra. However, Alice is not one of those exceptions. Some attacks also cannot activate an anomaly. Fortunately for Alice, she doesn't have to worry about that second part too much. Okay, one actual last thing to talk about is the Bangbu. He applies anomaly buildup, but he doesn't dilute it unlike having another agent would. But he also cannot activate it, so no matter how hard he may try, he actually just doesn't do anomaly damage. So now that I finished going over anomalies, can we talk about Alice yet? Well, not quite. If you noticed, there's also a disorder. I only mentioned that her enhanced basic attack does a polarized assault when I talked about what it does. So what's happening here? Well, we have to talk about disorders and how they work. When the enemy is suffering from an anomaly and you apply a different one, the previous anomaly is removed and they will take disorder damage while applying the new anomaly. This is the damage formula for disorder. As you can see, it scales off the damage of the previous anomaly and its remaining duration. Something that's less important to note is that doing disorders off of physical and ice anomalies does less damage. Well, it does make sense. By removing a fire, electric, or ether anomaly, you're getting rid of damage that they would have done if they had stayed on the enemy, while ice and physical anomalies don't really have anything more to contribute once they've been applied. Alice is a physical agent, so she's doing assaults, so we'll get back to this. So why is a disorder happening when she uses her enhanced basic attack? It's because polarized assault is a different anomaly from a normal assault. Because it is a different anomaly, it removes the previous anomaly, deals disorder damage based on the formula, then applies the polarized assault. The polarized assault damage is still calculated the same way as a normal assault, but it's technically different, so it applies a disorder. Because this is different from an assault, we can trigger a second disorder, dealing damage based off its remaining duration. So even if you are only applying physical anomalies, the enhanced basic attack will do 2 instances of disorder. So this leads me to the first actual tip of the video, which is to not instantly use Alice's enhanced basic attack at the start of the battle if you can avoid it. If you use a M0, sometimes she won't have her skill ready, and instantly using Alice's enhanced basic attack means it won't be buffed by use as effects, and you lose a disorder proc. So buff up and make sure you have an anomaly before using the enhanced basic attack. There's one last thing with disorders and anomalies I have to talk about, and that is that when you activate an anomaly, you cannot activate the same anomaly for about 3 seconds. If you apply more anomaly, that anomaly application just disappears into the void. Disorders are also subject to this cooldown. When you activate a disorder, you cannot activate another disorder for another 3 seconds. I will refer to this cooldown as the internal cooldown, or ICD. If you've ever tried a triple anomaly comp, you've probably ran into this. It's why they sound fun and cool, but they don't really play as well as they sound. The last thing to talk about is how these internal cooldowns interact with each other. If I want to apply an anomaly, that element's ICD starts. I can apply another anomaly as soon as I want, but I'll wait 1 second for this demonstration. Next, I'll try to activate the physical anomaly again, but it only activates 3 seconds after the disorder, not 3 seconds after its ICD. That's because the disorder ICD prevented the physical anomaly from being activated. This can be a bit confusing, but I assure you that this is important to maximizing Alice's damage. Now that we know everything that's going on, let's go back to the clips I played in the introduction. I think you can figure out what the difference is now, but if you didn't, the big difference is that in one clip, I'm not activating the anomalies in time, which puts it in ICD limbo. All of these characters apply a lot of anomalies, so while 3 seconds of downtime might not sound like a lot, I'm losing an entire assault rock. And at least in this deadly assault fight, I counted that I do 8 enhanced basic attacks with Alice, so that adds up to a lot of potential anomaly buildup wasted. So how do you avoid ICD limbo? Well, it's simple. Just make sure that you activate your anomalies before using the enhanced basic attack. If you're unable to do that, apply a bit more anomaly before using Alice's enhanced basic attack. And while you should swap cancel out of Alice's really long animation, she won't be able to activate the physical anomaly. Yuzuha is one of her most common partners, so she can activate the assault while Alice is off field. Doing this not only avoids wasting anomaly, it also maximizes the disorder damage that the polarized assault will deal, since the last anomaly applied will have barely ticked down, and the less time that ticks down, the more disorder damage it does. Alice's core passive also boosts disorder damage based on the elapsed time. Even if you do run into the ICD, you can work around it. If you have another element, try to apply that element's anomaly instead. Or you can use a long animation to hide the ICD. Yuzuha's ult, for example, isn't a huge amount of anomaly, and its animation is long enough to activate the assault after the ICD is up. There's also a little more we can do to maximize each of Alice's enhanced basic attacks. As I mentioned earlier, assaults provide weak disorder damage. If you're using a sub DPS like Bernice, Vivian, or Yanagi, I'd recommend using Alice's enhanced basic attack while there are anomalies on the enemy. This is a little bit less important, but with a forced disorder, it's better to disorder with a higher damaging disorder. Even though the enhanced basic attack is where most of Alice's damage is, the rest of her kit is still important. After all, in order to do the enhanced basic attack, you have to fill up the gauge in the first place. It requires 300 to activate, and her skill will give 100 and her ult will give 200. What's more important is knowing the other sources of getting the bar filled. Disorders give 30 and assaults give 10. Obviously your basic attack combo gives some, but it feels a little underwhelming since the normal basic attack combo won't fill up a bar entirely. It will if she activated an assault and ends her attack combo with an enhanced basic attack 5 though. Finally, what I think is the most important source of her gauge is her defensive assists. Outside of her skills and ult, this is her fastest way of generating gauge. It's the assist follow-up that gives gauge, so unfortunately Miasma Priest isn't going to be giving us an entire enhanced basic attack for free. Alice does want to be on field, but it's still useful spending time on other characters so you can defensive assist to her when the opportunity arises. For example, against the Fiend, when she starts screaming, I know she's not going to give a parry opportunity for whiles, so I should just be on Alice. However, when she's doing other attack strings like this, I know that I'll be able to give Alice a chance to parry in, so I can wait on swapping into her. Her stun combo isn't particularly special, unlike Miyabi's, but there's still a difference between a good and a bad stun combo. Her best stun combos will fit 2 polarized assaults into the stun window. To do this, you have to start casting the enhanced basic attack at the start. The boss doesn't have to be stunned yet, but make sure it is by the time the polarized assault lands. That's because the damage from the rest of the attack doesn't really matter since she's an anomaly character. We'll get the first 100 through her kit. Through chain attacks, activating anomalies, and disorders, she should get 100 or close to it by the time we're done with chain attacks. But make sure you don't chain attack to her too quickly, or else you will cancel her out of her enhanced basic attack, which loses the polarized assault. For the remaining 200, there are 2 easy ways to accomplish this. Ult or use skill twice. If you don't have ult, you need to make sure you have enough energy going into this stun window, or else you'll spend time doing basic attacks and run out of time to land the second polarized assault in the stun. Then, with 300 gauge built again, use the second enhanced basic attack. I shouldn't have to say, but while doing this, try to avoid the ICD traps like I spent the entire first half of the video explaining. Those are most of the tips to playing Alice herself, so let's talk about her teammates. She plays well with a lot of different teammates, but there's only a few that are particularly special that I think are worth talking about. But if I don't mention a teammate, it's just because you wouldn't play Alice any differently. It's not that they aren't good. The first mention is Yuzuha. As the premium anomaly support, she's a no-brainer. You might be tempted with running Freeze and Blues, but I found the results were consistently worse than other options. While none of Yuzuha's disc set options are great, so we'll just have to wait for a better set for her. Also, Yuzuha's off-field attacks don't dilute the anomaly, but everything else she does will. In practice, Yuzuha's anomaly damage is still good enough for this to not be a problem. The second mention is Nicole. Alice Yuzuha Nicole is currently Alice's best team, unless you have M2 Jane, which most of you guys probably don't. Nicole does a lot of anomaly on her own, even without building for anomaly. And because Alice likes swap cancelling, it's very easy to have Nicole's debuff on the enemy for every polarized assault, and at least most of the assaults. I think it's better to have Alice after Yuzuha, since if Alice is after Nicole, you only get to press one button on Nicole. This is because doing a quick assist prompt during a swap cancel will stop whatever the character is doing to do the quick assist. The same goes for chain attacks. It's not like Yuza does a ton with field time, but it's still better than more Nicole basic attacks. The last mention is Jane. The team shines at M2 Jane, but it's completely playable with M0 Jane 2. The team works because Jane's Nod effect applies to all assaults and even works with Alice's core passive. Even if you don't have M2 Jane, I'd still recommend this team because it's a reason to get Jane off the bench if you have both Alice and Jane. There's no second anomaly to manage here, but you still have to manage the ICD trap. You should pay attention to the assault bar whenever Alice uses an enhanced basic attack so you know if Jane is able to finish the assault before the polarized assault or not. If she can't, you need to apply more anomaly to avoid the ICD trap. Also remember that Alice is the star of the show. Both Jane and Alice gain gauge for being on field and basic attacking, but Alice's gauge is more important to build than Jane's. If you learned something about Alice, and if you did or found it helpful, I'd appreciate a like and a sub. I did include more than just one tip, but that one is by far the most important, and you'll see significant results managing your anomalies better. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.